Hello everyone! This is Perfume Coast, so welcome to my channel. As I continue talking about different perfume profiles, today it's all about Neroli. So without further ado, let's jump into the ocean of perfumes. So Neroli is of course an orange blossom flower that's distilled in a very specific way, and it's the process of distillation that sets this note apart from orange blossom. So the first fragrance I'd like to talk about is called White Neroli by the house Mizensir. And as always, let's take a quick look at the notes that Fragrantica is listing. So on the top we've got Tunisian Neroli, Calabria and Bergamot. In the middle there's orange blossom, and finally in the base there's white musk and incense. So this one, to start off, is one of those white florals that underpins classiness and elegance without being old-fashioned. For this reason, this sort of white florals can be all year round wear easily. So this fragrance is clean, slightly sweet, musky and a touch bitter. It's also a bit powdery and has a bit of green aspect to it as well. In a few moments after the opening, I can detect a soapy aspect. So this fragrance certainly has this transparency to it without being weak. So it's sort of the same DNA as Ex Nihilo's Fleur Narcotique or Parfums de Marly Valaya. All of these releases, whilst being quite different, have this unique shared crystal-like DNA that on the one hand leans towards citrusy colder character, but on the other there's almost this sweet aspect that's achieved through different notes that balances the overall coldness of this DNA. By the way, I do not necessarily smell any incense in here, but probably it's this note that contributes to the overall sweeter side of this perfume. Plus, to me, Neroli-based fragrances are always a bit on the sweeter side compared to orange blossom at least. Next up, we have another release of the similar lines. It's called Neroli Amara and it's by the house Van Cleef Arpels. And as always, let's take a quick look at the notes that Fragrantica is providing. So on the top what we've got is bergamot, mandarin orange, Italian lemon, also pink pepper. In the middle there's orange blossom, cypress, pear, black pepper, and finally in the base there's neroli and white musk. So this one is yet another fragrance of the same Valaya-like DNA. It's similar to the previous one in spirit, but very different in terms of its structure. So it opens up with, bright citrusy accord where citrus is front and center. And this citrus is very zesty and sparkly, but very quickly I realized that this perfume is not about citrus at all, and it's not my regular freshie either. So very quickly this perfume starts to be all about neroli. So this neroli is again crystal-like, a bit sweet, perfumingly touched, soapy and clean. Once again, it's displaying its elegant and classy nature. I can almost detect some liquidy effect that's not water per se, but it's rather a watery hint that makes this fragrance fluffy. Surprising ingredient in here is a note of cypress, which never comes forward, but it's certainly there to take this fragrance into a bit of piney woody territory, as if neroli are growing near the pine wood or cypress alley, which by the way is not unheard of, as lots of Mediterranean landscapes at least do enjoy both cypress trees and orange blossom, competing for their space under the sun, so to speak. This one resembles a lot of the release of Ormond Jane Levant, but Levant of course is clearly more about orange blossom and is also thicker and more ambery as well. So next up is yet another beautiful release by the house Diptique. It's called L'Eau Neroli, and as always, let's take a quick look at the notes. So according to Fragrantica, what we've got here is the following. So on the top we've got citruses, bergamot, lemon verbena, petitgrain and tarragon. In the middle there's neroli, orange blossom, also Egyptian pelargonium, and finally in the base there's beeswax, white musk and cedar. So this one, to my nose, is yet another crystal-like transparent neroli. It really does encapsulate its own name, suggesting a watery impression that's not cologne-like or but rather an aquatic hint, which is good news for those like me who are quite cautious whenever we see water or sea cod on the list. So the opening is quite bright and citrusy. It's zesty, zingy, sparkly, and quite sweet because of presence of beeswax, mainly, I suppose. Along with that, I can certainly detect slightly spicy, sweet character of tarragon and also a twiggy green nature of petitgrain. That's effectively a combo of branches and greenery of a citrus tree. So this one reminds me of some sort of citrus cocktail with addition of honey and white floral syrup, perhaps. But sweet as it is, it never gets cloying or overly sweet, even as compared to Ariana or Sintra, which are all about sweet gourmandy orange blossom. Distinct scent of Neroli to my nose is only detectable in about 15 minutes into the opening, as if citruses get disentangled from Neroli and now you get a chance to enjoy them separately. Next up is the release of the house BDK, which is also dedicated to Neroli. It's called Neroli, Villa Neroli. So, very quickly, let's take a look at the notes that Romantica is listing. So here, what we've got on the top is Tunisian Neroli, petitgrain and lemon. In the middle, there's orange blossom and Bulgarian rose. And finally, in the base, there's quite a few notes, which are bourbon vanilla, Cashmeran, ambroxan, Madagascar vetiver, Spanish labdanum, moss, and Indonesian patchouli leaf. So, as far as this one is concerned, this is the one where you can detect Neroli without any introductory stage, so to speak. The opening is straight Neroli scented. It's unapologetically sweet and soft, but not weak soft again. And this sweet softness, perhaps blended by Cashmeran and vanilla, has also a fresh undertone. By the way, I wouldn't separate sweetness from softness in here. So it's apparently the likes of some duo called to go hand in hand along with Neroli. At one point, this fragrance gives off lots of soapy accords and gradually sweetness of Neroli gets stronger. It's really a beautiful scent that's a bit thicker though compared to the previous 3 perfumes reviewed because of amplified sweetness landed by vanilla, Cashmeran and labdanum. Oh, by the way, labdanum is not really detectable to my nose on its own, and I think its role is creating this extra warmth effect. So next up is yet another beautiful release by the house Ralph Lauren, and it's called Moroccan Neroli. So as always, I suggest we look into the notes that Romantica is listing here. So on the top we've got ginger, blood grapefruit, cranberry. In the middle there's lavender, clary sage, labdanum, elemi resin, and finally in the base there's musk, cedar, guaiac wood, benzoin, and apoponox. So this one to me is a classic Neroli perfume if anyone asked to describe what Neroli smells like. It's citrusy, slightly spicy, giving off fresh, sparkly ginger. It's also very nutty and, as usual with Neroli, a bit sweet too. It's resinous and woody, but this accord, as grounding as it is done here in a very unusual summery way, which is what creates, I think, this nutty impression apparently. So to me, this Neroli bouquet is the likes of Neroli-infused drink with a bit of roasted hazelnut syrup added, perhaps. As often with Neroli, this fragrance at the same time comes across a bit soapy. It's EDT concentration, but it's quite long-lasting, about 5 hours on my skin. Next up is a quite unique release because it's a limited edition by the house Givenchy, and it's called Burning Neroli. And very quickly, let's take a quick look at the notes that Romantica is landing here. So it's quite simply, on the top we've got Neroli, in the middle there's patchouli, and finally in the base there's vetiver. So this one is really special, and it happens to be a limited edition going back to 2023. And despite the name, we do not observe any usual suspects responsible for smoky effects, such as labdanum or incense, for example. But I can clearly tell that Neroli in here is a touch smoky, or rather baked. You know, when the way flowers of orange blossom are exposed to the sun, and you can then detect a touch burnt vibe from the florals. This scent is for warm, dense and on the sweeter side again. I can also detect a strong patchouli note, or rather base, that provides this extra longevity as well. So next up is another beautiful release. This one is by the house Guerlain, referring to the line Aqua Allegoria, and it's called Neroli Vetiver Forte. So this line, as far as Neroli is concerned, has, as far as I remember, EDT concentration and also harvest edition with the honey note. But nonetheless, back to this one, let's take a quick look at the notes that Aqua is listing here. So what we've got on the top is the following. So it's Neroli, of course, and then we have fig leaf and petitgrain. Also there's bergamot. In the middle we've got fig and rose, and finally in the base says vetiver, cedar and tonka bean. So this fragrance is yet another extremely nutty Neroli, along with Moroccan Neroli by Ralph Lauren, and maybe it's vetiver that delivers this nutty sensation, as both of these have vetiver among the notes list. Which is interesting because vetiver is this green woody note, of course, that is not necessarily associated with nuttiness, but maybe it's one of those examples when certain effects are achieved in a variety of ways. So back to this fragrance, its primary quality is nuttiness along with strong Neroli presence. This scent, especially compared to the previous lineup, is lacking sweetness as such, and if any, it's probably achieved again by this gourmandy nuttiness that this perfume delivers. I can also detect figgy effect, but hardly the one achieved by the fig leaf listed here. To me, this figgy effect rather is the likes of fig milk coming from the fig fruit, as there's something lactonic fruity in here. And lastly, Neroli nuttiness is rounded up by the tonka bean that's in the base. So the kind of image that this fragrance gives off is this Neroli-infused dough with addition of roasted nuts and a touch of vanilla. So next up is very beautiful release, which has been featured in one of my videos already. It's released by the house Chopard, and it's called Neroli à la Cardamome de Guatemala. So once again, very quickly, let's take a look at the notes that Aqua is listing. So on the top we've got Neroli and mandarin orange, in the middle there's orange blossom, Guatemalan cardamome, and finally in the base there's ambrette and white wood. So this one is an extremely soapy Neroli. This Neroli scent is sparkly, a bit citrusy, not sweet and soapy clean. It's your expensive classy eau de cologne t-shirt fragrance that will certainly make an excellent fresh out of the shower option. As featured in the previous videos, to my nose it's straight an equivalent of Neroli Portofino EDP release by Tom Ford. But this one is more long-lasting and I like the bottle more as well. Plus it's a lot less pricey, and similar to Neroli Portofino, this one has this snow white, clean, laundresque, starchy undertone that's largely achieved by Neroli blend created by Alberto Morillas and Nathalie Lorson in here. So, finally, the last fragrance for today's video would be Aqua Neroli by the brand Clean Reserve. So, very quickly, let's take a quick look at the notes that Aqua is listing. So, what we've got on the top is bergamot, Sicilian orange, mandarin orange. In the middle there's Neroli, orange blossom and jasmine. And finally in the base there's musk, ambrette, amber and sandalwood. Well, this one is yet another twist on Neroli Portofino fragrance. It's screechingly clean and soapy yet again. Even compared to Neroli Portofino and Neroli de Guatemala, the cleanliness is on steroids in here. First spritz is straight away your laundry detergent with a bit of alcoholic touch, I would say. This opening is so strong that one may not necessarily detect any notes other than fresh, clean and slightly humid laundry detergent. However, as the scent sits, it becomes clear that this laundry detergent is citrus and neroli forward. But at the same time, clean freshness never gets quieter, nor does it shift to the background. So it remains in the end your soapy neroli forward scent that's also slightly aquatic and laundry queen. So at one point, neroli gets slightly carnal, I would say, which is a testament, though, of using natural ingredients by the brand. So, but this, feature never crosses clean boundaries and never goes all out. So, what can be said about neroli fragrances overall, and which common features are then shared by pretty much all neroli fragrances? So, these are certainly less punching and better behaved compared to orange blossom it derives from. It certainly contains certain amount of sweetness that's either amplified and we have our gourmand white floral profile, or it can be toned down, giving way to other characteristics. Then neroli fragrances are all, naturally clean and soapy, but as with sweetness, depending on whether the soapiness is an intentional go or not, it may be highlighted or toned down again. And finally, this is certainly a very powerful note, which you will detect unmistakably if it's present among the notes. But oddly enough, it's also really blendable and friendly to other notes and accords. This way, nicely sustaining creativity of a specific perfumer or a house, which makes this note so popular in the fragrance world. And I do not think neroli is going anywhere anytime soon, and luckily so, at least to me. But that's it, guys. This wraps up the video. If you liked this video, please give it a like. Please consider subscribing. I'm curious about your comments as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.